Hey everyone, Watches and Wonders just happened this week and there were some interesting releases. So I thought it would be fun to go over some of these releases and see if there's anything interesting that I might want to add to my collection. Why don't we start with Rolex and then we'll go from there. I actually did stay up to look at the releases. To be honest, when I saw the Rolex updates, I was more looking to see what would be discontinued versus what would come out, because there's a couple watches that I'm interested in and I was concerned that they would be discontinued and I wouldn't be able to get them, but that's not the case. So let's continue. Actually, that's not true. There is one watch that was discontinued that I'm a bit bummed about, but we'll get there. The first new release is the GMT Master 2. This is the black and gray bezel with the green GMT hand. It's an interesting watch. This is the steel version of the watch that was released last year that was a two-tone gold. To be honest, when that watch came out originally, I wasn't that interested. I got to see it in person last year and I tried it on the wrist and it was okay. It's not really my style. I'm not a big fan of two-tone. With the gold, it is a little bit different. I mean, it looks nice. I can appreciate it, but I don't think it's a watch for me. This year, this is the reboot of it in steel. It comes in Jubilee and Oyster, and it has the green GMT hand. So this is the 126710 GRNR. I think it's meh. The gray and black is so subtle. It kind of blends into the bracelet. So it's a little hard to tell that it's a black and gray bezel, at least from like a distance. I do appreciate the green. It does make it pop a little bit, so it gives it some contrast. But all in all, I don't find the watch too interesting. This is probably not one of the GMTs that I'll add to my collection. Originally, I was thinking that I tried to collect all the GMTs, at least all the steel GMTs. That goal kind of quickly died because I wasn't sure I wanted a bunch of GMT, like a Rolex GMTs in my collection. I don't have a Rolex GMT yet, but I am working on getting one. Once I get it, I will share it with you all. So moving on. The next thing they released was the new Day-Date with the black sunburst dial on rose gold. I personally am not a Day-Date fan, so I wasn't very excited about this one. I can see why people would like it. As a watch, I do think that sunburst dial contrasting against the rose gold looks very nice. That black and rose gold with the day and the date on the white, it gives it a good contrast. Good looking watch, but again, not for me. The 1908. This is the closest thing to something that I would be interested in. The reason why I would be interested in is that dial color looks very nice. That ice blue. It's got the guilloche dial. It's actually a very nice looking watch. The inside of the strap is green, which is also a nice touch. It gives it a good contrast. It looks like they called the dial a rice grain motif dial. That's interesting. I don't see the rice grain, but maybe it's just me. It's got the platinum case. It's got the open case back. I do think the 1908s look nice. It's definitely a dress watch. I'm not that big into dress watches. I would rather wear a nice sports model as a dress watch than a dress watch, but maybe I just haven't matured in my taste yet. Who knows? It's an interesting looking watch, 39 millimeters, not something that I want to add to my collection, but it is a nice looking watch. Moving on, we have this big boy, the new Deep Sea in yellow gold with a blue dial and a blue bezel. The case back is a titanium case back, so it is gray. I'm not a fan of that contrast. The yellow gold and the titanium, I don't think is a good mix in terms of color. This watch is definitely not for me. I would imagine it is super heavy. And then you've got the helium escape valve in titanium as well, which again gives that contrast of the yellow gold and the titanium. Not a fan. This is one I will definitely not add to my collection. I won't go as far as to call it gaudy, but this thing is super flashy and I really don't like it. The contrast of the blue and the yellow gold is actually pretty nice, but this thing is so thick, so heavy, and it's got the titanium contrasting with the yellow gold. I just think it ruins it. Anyways, moving on, we have then the Daytonas, which they iced out. I'm not even going to dig into these. They're mother of pearl dials. I'm sure there is an audience for this. I am not the audience. I'm not a fan of iced out dials. I think the only watches that I like that have diamonds on them is where the diamonds are only on the dial. So for example, the Platinum Daytona with the baguette markers looks very tasteful and very nice. I think the Tudor Black Bay 41 with the diamond hour markers looks pretty nice. So Daytona's no for me. And then we have a new Sky Dweller on rose gold with this new gray dial. The color contrast looks interesting. It's like this light gray and you have the contrast of the red, the white, and the rose gold. Again, rose gold, I'm not a big fan of. I don't think it looks good on my wrist. I'm sure there are people who will love this watch. I am not one of them. I won't poo-poo on this one. I do think it is a nice combination. It is a nice look. It's just not for me. And that wraps up Rolex. So all in all, not that interesting of a release this year, in my opinion. A couple notable things is they got rid of the Le Mans white gold Daytona. I mean, they announced it, I believe, in the summer of last year, and less than a year later, and now it's gone. And then they got rid of the interesting dials on the Datejust, so the motif and the palm leaves. That's a bummer. That was a cool option for the Datejust line. My guess is they're consolidating it a little bit. I was actually interested in the blue or green motif dial, but I guess I won't be able to get those anymore. Well, I mean, I guess I could go gray, but I'm not. Hopefully, maybe next year they introduce something fun and new for the Datejust line. A couple other notables is that they did not retire the Pepsi GMT. They did not retire the Sprite GMT. And they did not retire the Celebration Oyster Perpetual. Let's hop on over to Tudor. I think Tudor was definitely more interesting this year. They had a few interesting watches for their release. We have the new Black Bay GMT with the black and red bezel, so reminiscent of the Rolex Coke GMT. I think it's a very interesting watch. I prefer it on the rubber strap. The rubber strap reminds me of the Oyster Flex. The coloring of the numbers and the markers is interesting. So I believe it's gilt. It's kind of got this goldish hue to it. I keep going back and forth on whether I like it a lot or not. I think it definitely looks interesting. It makes it pop. It gives it a lot of contrast. I think if I were to critique this watch, I think the dial could be a deeper black. I think that would be really cool. That would contrast the gold color much better. Or if the numbers and the markers and everything were white, I think that would contrast it more as well. That being said, it's something I'll think about. It's definitely an interesting watch. If we move on, we have the new Black Bays. That's a monochrome version. And this to me looks like a sub. People said that the Pelagos 39 was a sub replacement. This is the sub replacement. I mean, I don't know how you could get closer. I think it's interesting because this comes on a 5-link bracelet or their Jubilee and their rubber strap. I think that is interesting because a sub from Rolex only comes on the Oyster bracelet. I would much rather have a no-date sub than the Black Bay. And then we have the new Black Bay 58 in yellow gold. This is an update to the previous version. So they had the yellow gold, but it wasn't on the yellow gold bracelet. But this year they have made a full yellow gold bracelet for Tudor, and I actually like it. I think the green against the yellow gold is a very nice touch. It doesn't clash. It complements each other very nicely. I am intrigued and maybe interested in this watch. However, the price point and getting a Tudor, there are other watches I think I would want, aside from the fact that I'm not a big fan of like yellow gold watches either, but if I find the right one, I may pick one up. But this one makes me think. Most likely will not get this one, but I will definitely keep an eye on it. We have the new Claire de Rose, which is more geared towards the female audience. It's a smaller watch. It's got the diamond markers and the Roman numerals at the 12, 6, and 9. And it's got an interesting crown there. The blue looks very nice. The diamonds make it look very nice too. Not for me, obviously, and I don't think I would pick one up for my wife. I'm not sure I'm a fan of the way that the light reflects off the dial. It kind of gives it a cheap look almost. So this one is probably not one that I will give much thought to. And that is Tudor. A couple interesting ones, nothing really stand out like, wow, I really want it. I need to go out and get it, which is a little bit disappointing. If we move on, let's look at Vacheron. Vacheron is definitely an amazing brand. VC is a brand that I will definitely add to my collection. They announced a few things. We have the new green dial that came out for the overseas and the tourbillon in blue. It is a titanium tourbillon. The dial is amazing. I'm still trying to get the steel versions. I'm not so in love with this one. I wouldn't get it, but that's just my opinion. Let's move on to the green dial watches that came out. So we have the rose gold with the new green dial. In photos, they look very interesting. I looked at a couple YouTube videos about this watch, and I don't know if it was the lighting or whatnot. The dial doesn't look as impressive. Maybe I just need to see it in person. I did let my AD know that I would like to see it in person, so we'll see. That being said, I'm not a big fan of pink gold, so I will not be picking these up. I do think the green dial on the pink gold on the green rubber strap looks amazing though. It provides great contrast. I do wish the strap and the dial color matched a little bit more, but it is a great look. It's just not for me. Should we look at Gégé Lecoultre? They have a new Master Ultra Thin Perpetual Calendar that has an iced bezel. We have one with a non-iced bezel. Not my thing. It is definitely a dressy watch. I'm sure people will be interested in it. I love JLC as a brand. I think they make amazing watches. Perpetual calendars, it's an amazing complication. It's very advanced. JLC is probably one of the best brands, period. But also it's going to be one of the best brands where you can get a perpetual calendar at this price point. The one watch that I was very surprised to see and am a bit torn about is the new Duomet. I can't pronounce it correctly, but the reason why I like this watch is I like the 1/6 second hand. A long time ago, they had a blue face one, I believe. I think it looks very nice. It looks very clean. I really dig that 1/6 second hand. Like I could just stare and watch it all day. It's definitely one that I will probably come back to and keep looking at. And then we have the other ones that came out. We have the Chronograph Moon on pink gold, and then we have a new one that's on platinum, and it has this like salmon color dial. I think the salmon dial is pretty nice. The salmon dial is semi-skeletonized, so you can kind of peek behind it. Not for me, but I do think they're beautiful. We have the new Master Ultra Thin Perpetual Calendar, another dress watch. It's a perpetual calendar, amazing complication, but a little too plain for me. I like watches with a bit more contrast. And that's all she wrote. Can move on to IWC. There's the new Portugueser Eternal Calendar. I fortunately got to sit in on a webinar for IWC and got to see them talk about a couple of these watches. We have these Portuguesers here. We have a white dial, an ice blue dial, gold-ish dial, this black dial, I think they call it obsidian, and a white dial. IWC, not really my thing. I think there are a couple that are very interesting. They have some amazing complications, some very advanced complications actually. They have some interesting case materials like ceratanium, which is a combination of ceramic and titanium, which is basically unscratchable and unbreakable. Not much tickled my fancy for IWC this year. There's one brand I've been saving until the very end. So Nomos is definitely increasing in popularity, and they had an interesting release this year. It's a Tangente 38 date. This is an homage to their 175 years of watchmaking, and they released 31 colors. The palettes look very interesting. What's cool about this is that they have 31 variants of the watch, and each variant is limited to 175 pieces for their 175 years. I saw this and I thought it was really cool. The design on these watches is very playful, and at this price point, it's hard to beat. I was going to actually get one and my friend was going to get the other, but then I was waiting to see if I could get it through my AD just to consolidate my spend. They didn't get back to me and these watches were selling out. So the watch that I was originally trying to get was this Sport Bunt. It's got this deep orange color with the yellow and blue on the outer ring. I'm increasingly becoming more obsessed with this blue-orange combination, and that is something that I think I will keep an eye on in terms of my watches and even like my clothing and whatnot. The other one was Peace. You've got this white dial with a blue ring and orange on the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. And then for the small second. It's more subtle, it's underspoken, and I really like this one as well. There's actually one more that piqued my interest, was this lemon biscuit. It's got that same white dial, but it's got yellow around and this blue. It's a little more subtle, this one's a little more playful, but if I had to choose between this and Peace, Peace is the one that I would rather get. That being said, when I thought I would just buy the watch through their website, I noticed that the Sport Bunt was sold out. And then I quickly came over to Peace and they still had stock. So me and my friend, who were actually both looking at this watch, we were both like, oh crap, let's order them. We ordered it. And as soon as we ordered it, I went back to the site. They were sold out. So it would be pretty crazy if we got number 174 and 175. I'm very curious. I can't wait until we get these to see which ones we got. Plus, I will also do a unboxing and have that video for you guys. But I'm very excited to get this watch. I think it looks clean. It looks great for this price point. Super hard to beat. I'm very excited for this one. And also, like, what a story, right? You get the last two watches for this variant. I mean, come on. I will keep you guys updated. I will let you know. I'm super excited. So let's see. I think I've gone over most of the brands. Oh no, I should go over one more, which is Patek. Patek also released some new watches that look very nice. We have the new World Time, which is on white gold. The dial looks very nice. It's a bit busy, right? Because it's the World Time. The dial is a star, but this strap looked very interesting. I'm very curious what the material is. I'll have to look more into it, but it is a nice looking watch. Will I ever get it? Probably not. Can I get it? Probably not, but it's still fun to look at these. Then we have more of these grand complications that came out from Patek. It's very on brand with their look. Not my thing, but very nice looking watches. This strap makes an appearance on the Nautilus. You have the 5980 on white gold, which is very interesting. I'm wondering if we'll see this new strap propagate to the other variants, or at least we can order them. That being said, I need to be able to get a Patek first. Right. No Pateks in my collection yet, but someday. We have the new white gold Aquanaut that has this nice color. There's one Aquanaut that I want, and it's not this one. I mean, this is new, but it's also not the one that I would want. And there's this other Aquanaut. This is a quartz movement though. It's on rose gold, and you have this blingy white gold Aquanaut here that's been totally iced out. New golden ellipse and a new 24. Those are all the watches. I think those are all the brands, at least the ones that I keep an eye on. Out of all the releases, I did add one new piece to my collection, which is the Nomos. I will update you guys when I receive it. Other than that, I didn't see anything that I will likely pick up. I'm curious to see what these brands release throughout this year, but as it stands right now, there's nothing new that I'm interested in. There are a few watches outstanding that I have interest in with my and so I'll be waiting to receive those hopefully this year, maybe next year, we'll see. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this year's Watches and Wonders and the releases. Is there anything that you think I overlooked or you think would actually fit in with my collection? Thanks again for stopping by. I hope this was interesting. If you like this format, please let me know. Thanks again for stopping by, and I will see you all next time.